Okay, so before Nikki, I was so I started drinking between 18 and 23. At 23, I had my first drug. It was coke. After I had my first drug at 23, I used coke, cat, and crystal meth sniffing for until I was 35. I used it every single day until I was 35. Yeah, every single day, even traveling. I used to travel overseas through Dubai with drugs on me. I couldn't ever be without drugs. Obviously, I took chances. When I was traveling alone, when I was traveling with my parents, I would take 10 to 20 grams with me overseas. Obviously, if I got caught, I would have been in even bigger shit. So then at 30, I started gambling. The gambling completely financially crippled me in the 5 years. I lent money. I owed about 350,000 when I came into rehab at 35, of which I've obviously managed to pay back now. Yeah, I've been clean and sober for about 3.5 years. Yeah, so every day was a struggle to get drugs. I pawned all my items, computers. I used to get in quite a lot of fights. I was very aggressive. Yeah, I suppose like out of all my friends that I was hanging around with, I was at that point in time probably the worst. I was the worst influence. I never used to influence people to do things, but if you're around me, you were doing drugs, you were doing the wrong thing. Look. In saying that, I also had a lot of fun in those years. I had a hell of a lot of fun. But obviously, towards the end, the last 5 years got ugly. Also, I was dating, the kind of women I was dating were just as fucked up as me. Yeah, I just loved to jail, and I loved women and whatnot. And yeah, so that was, I just loved to jail. That's my reason for starting. I never actually had anything bad that happened to me, or nothing out of the ordinary. So I was basically a spoiled brat. I mean, I had access to finances that I don't think most people had. I mean, at 18, I had 2 credit cards from my parents, obviously, with no limit on. So I used to obviously abuse that for about 5 or 6 years, and then they got taken away from me. Then I was on basically a cash basis. I was working right through. I waited when I was 18 to 23. At 23, I obviously took my first drug. And then, so I did always work, but I was obviously working. I was fucked when I was working. I was, I suppose, good at working, whatnot, but I obviously could have been better. So I fucked things up quite a lot. I had an IT company that I completely fucked up from the drugs, from spending, and it was a successful business, but as much as I made, I spent double. That was when I was about 26, 27. Yeah, so the in-between spaces, look, I was always, I obviously started stealing. I felt guilty about the stealing now and again, but not really. I actually didn't give a fuck that I was stealing from my parents or from my business or from that whole situation. But feelings-wise, I was, how do I explain it? I don't know. I think I was just so fucked that I was just numb. I was just completely numb. So it's hard for me to explain feelings. I mean, I was basically desperate all the time to get drugs, basically very desperate to get drugs, to get money to gamble. The girlfriends that I had, I was paranoid with that they were fucking around. I was basically like, I dated a girl for 18 months. She was living with me towards when I was about from 30 to about 33. I was completely paranoid that she was fucking around. Obviously, this was the drugs doing this. And obviously also I was fucking around. So, it was like the admission of guilt thing. I did find out she was fucking around, but I think I pushed her to that. Where I was very hurt is that she had a daughter and the daughter was living with us around all this shit. Between me and her, we were 2 peas in a pod. We loved to gamble. We loved drugs. And obviously the daughter was young. She was 6, but she knew what was going on. She wasn't stupid. At one point, she actually even asked me, does my mommy take drugs? And I still miss that little girl today, and I feel terrible that that I was part of exposing her to all this shit. But yeah, those were my feelings. I mean, I was pretty much numb otherwise. I didn't really have any regret or guilt or stuff like that. I just didn't give a fuck. You know, I was so far gone after all those years. So yeah. Yeah. So look, the first, like when I took my first drug at 23, obviously I couldn't eat. I couldn't I couldn't eat, and I was obviously taking everything all day, you know. So I couldn't, in the beginning from 23, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was very paranoid. I just started taking drugs, so all those preliminary side effects were there. But after about 2 or 3 years, my body got so used, and I was taking so much every day, my body got so used to the drugs that when I wanted to sleep, I could sleep. I was actually I ate a lot more on drugs than I do now off drugs. I think my body was just needed nutrients, yeah. And with regards to sleep, yeah, I could sleep. I could sleep easily, obviously from being so exhausted. So basically, I used to sleep. And the reason being I could sleep, I used to sleep maybe twice a week, 2 to 3 times a week. I used to sleep 2 nights or 3 weeks. That's how many drugs I was taking. Which obviously, so when I did sleep, I crashed for like 4 or 5 days and just didn't leave my room and slept. But yeah, so after the 3 years, that was the common pattern until I was, from 25 to 35. That was 10 years of this. So imagine how exhausted my body was to be able to sleep when I was crashing, to be able to eat like I was eating. I did keep myself hydrated because I thought I was clever. I thought that I could drill longer and harder. So yeah, and towards the end, I was obviously at the casinos, gambling, women. And then when I got home, I was gambling online. So the longer I could stay awake, the more I could gamble. And yeah, so that was the physical stuff. But it's scary to think that I was sleeping 2 to 3 times a week for 10 years. I mean, I think back now, and it's actually frightening. That is that's how many drugs I was taking. And obviously, you know, I remember like a couple of weeks I had slept once a week in that period. So you must imagine towards the end, just out of it, completely out of it. By like day 5 or 6 or 7, I was completely fucked. To the point where you start to hear things, and now and again, if I took a sleeping tablet, I'd have hallucinations. I never used to take sleeping tablets. Now and again, what I would do, when I traveled, I'd take 2 Xanors to calm me down while I was traveling, so that I didn't look out of place or twitchy or anything like that. So that was my solution to take things overseas in that. And when I had a family function or I was seeing my family, I would take a Xanor so that I could obviously be calm and chilled and not have not look anxious. I never suffered from anxiety, luckily, but obviously the amounts I was taking were not normal. So that was my little system and always ate. So that was my little system to fly by for 10 years. And I wouldn't say unnoticed, it was noticed, but obviously when I was traveling, and, you know, with regards to my parents and my family, they basically only knew me on drugs. Because at 18, I was drinking and whatnot, and I was jawling. But from the 23 to the 35, they didn't know what my normal, and neither did I. They didn't know what my normal way about me was. The only thing they knew was me on drugs. So they didn't really know the difference. They had bust me with drugs now and again, but they obviously I bullshitted and said that it's a once-off or things like that. So they didn't really know what my real character was. I mean, obviously now it's different. You know, like 3.5 years in, I think they see backwards then, in retrospect, how bad it really was. Okay, look, I had no intention of stopping drugs, but what happened was, the epiphany moment was about 3 months before I went into rehab. I had just broken up with this girl that I was living with for 18 months and a daughter. Things went obviously pear-shaped, and I went out one night. I went to strip club. Started. Sorry, I lied. So I went to the strip club, and before I actually went to the strip club this night, I was going by myself. I used to love being alone because no one could see what I was doing, or I just digged it. You know, I had no accountability to anything or anyone. So, and I always joke around and say when I was by myself, I was at my worst. You know, there's no accountability. And I remember at this point, I had moved out of the place I was staying and moved back in with my parents because obviously I couldn't pay my rent. I was fucking completely out because of the gambling and the drugs. And I remember before I went to the strip club this night, it's one of the only nights at that point in time that I actually prayed, and I said, I showered, I was ready to go. I put my hands together, I looked up and I said, shit, God, I need to, how do I actually get out of this? I mean, things are fucked. Enough's enough. How do I get out of this? I don't think I can get out of this. But how do I get out of this? I went to the strip club that night. I met a stripper, ended up seeing her. And I used to bring her back. I was living with my parents. I used to bring this chick back to my house, my parents' house, jawling, drugs, the whole story. And what actually happened 2 months into this, I still don't call it a relationship. I should, in fact. But 2 months into this, I had crashed for these 3-4 days. She had gone to go tell my parents how bad it is with me. So, and at that point, that's when the ball got rolling with me going into rehab, my parents knowing how bad it is. They kicked me out of the house. They got hold of a Greek guy that was my sponsor. He came phoned me to meet me and whatnot. You know, so if that was my epiphany moment, like if I never met this woman that night I prayed, I'd probably still be jawling. So it's amazing how things work out, you know. No, nothing. I had no intention of stopping drugs. No intention. Not once did I ever say, fuck, this is the last time, this is the last packet. This is not once in all those years that I was balls to the wall. I was not once that I actually say to myself, until that night I said to you, enough's enough. Not once that I even want to try. I thought I had this attitude, and it was obviously an excuse for me to jaw that, fuck, I'm only here once, I'm gonna fucking enjoy my life. Fuck everyone. That was my thinking. So what happened was this Greek guy I told you, he had actually come to speak to my parents and explain to them what's going on and what the next steps were and how to actually get me into rehab, which is obviously quite difficult. So Nikki was actually his counselor at another facility, and she had got him right. And so I actually went to the rehab that Nikki was at for Nikki. So what had happened is I went to go take a look at one or two rehabs, I just wasn't into them. Even my sponsor said to me, don't come here to this one place, let's go see Nikki. I went to go see Nikki, I sat with Nikki, and as I sat with her, I clicked with her. I just saw, I don't know what it was, I just clicked with her, and I think this is from upstairs that I just clicked with her, and I said, I'll come here. So I went to that rehab for Nikki, didn't go there for the actual rehab. Clicked with Nikki, and then after my first session with her when I was in rehab, I just clicked with her, I opened up to her. It's the only person I've ever opened up to completely about everything what I've done with it. Because I knew that if I hold back on things with her, she can't help me. And I actually wanted the help. Once I actually got on with her, you know, and she didn't take my shit. She saw right through any bullshit. So I didn't even try bullshit. I just completely opened up. And the more I opened up every hour I had with her once a week at that point in time, I was getting better and better and better. And so I just carried on. And obviously I still see her today, 3.5 years later, for an hour. And reason being is that that's my time. It's my self-care. It's my self-love. So she's often told me that after the first year or so, but she actually said to me, you know, you don't need to come anymore. And I said, no, I'm coming. There's still others. It's my time. I want to come. It's my hour a week that I can get away from everything and everyone and open up about X, Y, and Z. And, you know, today, like for the last, call it 2.5 years, I haven't been dealing with addiction stuff. It's more moving forward stuff. You know, balancing my life, making sure that friendship-wise, family, business, personally, relationships, that I'm keep on moving forward in all those aspects of my life. And that's what I work with her on, with her update to what's happened that week. She gives me guidance. She sees where I'm going, what I'm doing. And I think that's been my secret to obviously coming right and coming as far as I have. Because, you know, as long as you're progressing on average across all those things, that's what's kept me clean. The fact that I keep on growing and keep on moving forward on all the aspects of my life, that's what's kept me clean. And obviously with the guidance of Nikki, and that's why I still see her today, and I enjoy the time with her and I get on with her, and yeah, that's how I came about to meet Nikki. Look, with Nikki, because I was comfortable with her, I'm the kind of person, I don't open up to anyone. I would open up about certain things to certain people. With Nikki, because I'm so comfortable with her and because I get on well with her and she understands me, and I think she understands me, yeah, because I've opened up and whatnot to her. With Nikki, I felt relieved that there was a way out. And because I still believe that the counseling played the biggest role in everything that I've been through. And yeah, so I felt relieved in the beginning that I clicked with Nikki and I could open up to Nikki and that I had a way forward in life. Well, look, so Nikki, the first thing that she had put into place with me was a routine, of which, you know, when I tell you about being awake for 7 days and I was running to casinos all day and missing meetings and late, and she said to me, put a routine in place. And I still have the same routine today. I wake up at the same time, I go to bed around about the same time, I work between 9 and 5 or 9 and 4, whatever the case is. I make sure I've got time to myself. So the routine was the first thing she put into place. And once I got the routine right, and the routine I obviously practiced in the halfway house. But by practice, I mean, to break 13, 14, 15 years of drugs with no routine, it took me a year in the halfway house to get my routine right, to unwind all that shit. And once the routine was right, then I could work on getting better in other aspects. So that was, I think, the cornerstone is the routine. And I still have the same routine today. And I practiced that in the halfway house. It took me a year to unravel everything, all the shit. Yeah, so look, you say, what would I tell people? I've told a lot of people already, and they have taken my advice because they've seen the transformation that I've gone through. And what I say to them is this: that Nikki helped me change my life. I did a 180, and she's helped me change my life. And yeah, you know, I'm testament to it. They see how I am, and you know, I'm very proud of. And yeah, a couple of people have taken that advice and gone to Nikki, and she's helped change their lives as well, which is great, you know. So, you know, when I say something like that to somebody, they can see my confidence, they can see how proud I am of getting better. And so what I say comes with a lot of credibility. You know, I'm speaking by example, not by bullshit and wrong advice and whatnot. And that's it. So basically, Nikki helped me change my life, and that's where I'm at with, yeah, that's what I would tell people, and I do tell people.